was gonna pretend like a microphone comes down like this from the sky, and I'll just pretend I have one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce the presence at stage right of a true champion. The dancing destroyer, the king of sting, the count of Monte Fisto, and the master of disaster. The person who put the action in Jackson and the hurricane in Smith. He's acted alongside Pam Grier, Sylvester Stallone, Harrison Ford, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sharon Stone, Adam Sandler, David Cross, and he might give you all acting lessons for exactly $1,100. You will currently find him playing Cook County State's Attorney Mark Jefferies on Dick Wolf's Chicago Justice on NBC, and in addition to being an actor, he is also a former NFL linebacker, a director, a producer, a voiceover artist, and a recording artist. Yes, I bet you didn't know that. Oh, and he played this little role, Apollo Creed. Anyhow, put your hands together for the one, the only, Carl Weathers.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sit down, sit down, sit down. Come on. I love this, these comfortable front row seats. The rest of you just get treated like, yeah, you know what I mean? But look at this. This is beautiful. SAG, I know where this dude's money is going now. That.
Not to the foundation, though.
Well,
we don't get
you guys
any
better,
money.
you better start talking to them so you can keep rows of these beautiful seats going in that case. They're giving it the foundation. They should be throwing some money to the foundation because it's helping the very people who are paying dues,
this is
like
true.
Myself. So,
yes, yes.
You know, and all of you actors here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. I want to just say that to you because we all could use a little information or some notes or whatever we can, some tips on stuff that maybe we haven't experienced and have to navigate every time we go out there, even to an audition, and deal with people rejecting you and making you feel less than, and you constantly trying to feel like you are worthy of and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully tonight there'll be something that'll be about you as opposed to about me. That's why I'm really here.
Well, let's just start off with the fact that you've been in over 70 films and television shows. And I think I can speak on behalf of this entire audience of actors by saying we just don't see enough of you.
I like that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, yeah. I mean, I on one hand, I could say, you know what, I appreciate that, and in some ways I feel the same way. However, part of it is by design, because there's a lot of stuff that we could all jump into when we're asked to do it, or there are a lot of things that come down the pike that, you know, may be a paycheck, but it may not necessarily be good for your soul or certainly your career. And so you make choices as a result, sometimes regardless of how much the paycheck would really, really be nice at the moment. But if you want, in my opinion, if you want a career, one has to be judicious in the choices, you know, and if you're looking to do great work, I mean, if that really is your intention and your desire, then you also have to be judicious in what you allow yourself to be utilized in. You know, I hate that word. I'm going to use this actor and use this actor. I had an agent once who said, you don't use people, you utilize their talent. And so I try to remember that and remind people of that. It not only elevates the one who says it, but it elevates the person you're talking to or about, you know. So, you know, making those choices that you think are going to benefit you and that are going to benefit what you want to accomplish in your career and that are going to feed your soul, as I said, you know. So part of the, you know, not seeing me as maybe as much as you could see me, there'd be some things I'd do and you'd say, why did he do that?
Sure.
You know, and then the next time around you don't go out because you thought this guy, yeah, the stuff he's in, I'm not interested in, you know. So I try to do things that are meaningful to me, that I think are, that have a chance to be successful. and that I have a chance to be successful in. And that just doesn't mean, getting applause. I mean, that the writing is good enough and in line and in keeping with things that make sense to me or that I believe in or that I want to promote, which is what I usually say, because if you're in it, it means you're promoting it. Whatever it is, whatever the product is, if you are a part of creating it, you're promoting it. If the statement is a statement that is destructive or that is harmful to human beings, why do I want to be a part of that? I want to be a part of things that uplift human beings and that says something, positive about all of us. And you know what? I'm not just saying that really, because I think it's the right thing to say. I just think at the end of the day, for all of us, if we have children, if we are children, and some point we were, of somebody, and you have an opportunity to really make a difference in the world through your art, then why not do something that is, to whatever degree you can, be uplifting? That's going to be positive in the world. That's going to, help someone along their little merry way to feel better about what they're doing and who they are and what they're about, So I do my best to represent. And then, of course, people of color, I can speak specifically to that, knowing that over the years, how we've been represented in this industry. There are some examples that I had when I was a kid. When Sidney Poitier came along, it was like this beacon of light. And people like Harry Belafonte and people like Woody Strode. Many people don't even know who he is, but Woody Strode was he was a magnificent human being. And when I was a young actor, I got a chance to sit at his knee a couple times. I was invited to his house. He lived out in Glendora. And he was a great athlete. And I didn't know a lot about Woody except I'd seen Spartacus, and I got an invitation through an agent I had, and I sat with this man, and it was, at 70 years old, he was just magnificent, this body, just God gave this guy some genetics that were scary good. And, to sit with him and I know I'm already going on without
I like
questions.
it. I don't even need to be up here.
Well, I just, no, you do. You're my safety net.
I'm here for you. I am.
No, I just in thinking about it, particularly again, and I'm speaking to all people, of course, but I feel a particular kind of responsibility, if you will, with people of color, because again, we haven't been really represented that well in the industry until very recently, when people have decided, oh, you know what, those are people too. They have very interesting ways of living life, and it resembles everybody else's way of living life. But to get those opportunities, sometimes are few and far between for really good material, and material that speaks to humanity, not just to a small segment of humanity. And so when I sat with Woody one time, everybody has gems. There's that great line, even a blind pig can find an acorn. And so no matter who you're listening to, sometimes if you really listen, they're saying something that might be really important to you in life, in career, in just observation of humanity. Since what we're doing is replicating how human beings behave, then somebody can say something and you go, that's an interesting one to walk away with. I can utilize that in my work maybe someday. But Woody said to me, we were sitting there, and he observed that in many cases, particularly he was talking about black actors, when you get a chance to be in a movie, what you usually are is you are basically the guy carrying the spear. You're not the guy making the choices on who's going to carry the spear. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that's basically what he was saying. And because he was so magnificently put together, and really one of the most handsome men you've ever seen, he said to me, what I have always tried to do is, if I had a role and I was, the man, or if I thought I was going to be the man, I wanted to surround myself with great soldiers. I didn't want to surround myself with diminutive soldiers, because the greater they are, if I'm the leader, I'm going to look even greater. So never surround yourself with people who are less than you, because you don't look very powerful that way. When you surround yourself with giants, that's when you really look powerful. So I kind of took that lesson and always thought, you know what? When I walk out there, be a giant, no matter what the role is, you know, and they won't miss me as a result. They won't miss me. So, you know, there are certain things that people like that, and you know, and Ali, Muhammad Ali, who, you know, certainly had a SAG card at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might not say he was a great actor, but he had a SAG card. And a few meetings that I had with him, just, you know, just wisdom, and Poitier and Belafonte and people like that. It showed, you know, were people who acted with a certain responsibility. And so I kind of took lessons from those guys. And then, of course, there are other actors. I worked with not Lancaster. I met him, and he taught me a lot just in a conversation, you know. And Newman I met, he taught me something with one phrase, you know.
What was it?
Give him hell, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did.
Well, you know what? If Paul Newman says to you, give him hell, kid, he's saying a lot in those few words. Because he's showing you respect. He is saying to you, you got it, you can be it. He is saying, I like what you do. You know, all those things in those, or at least I interpreted it that way. So when I walked out of there, it was like, that was Paul Newman talking to me, you know. But yeah, you know, you just walk away with all those words of wisdom from all these people who really were giants in the industry, and who were the people that inspired me, whose movies I would watch over and over and over growing up. And even today, you know, I watch those movies and take acting lessons from them, you know. Yeah. And it only cost me whatever it cost me to turn my TV on after I paid, you know, what is it now? It's not Comcast anymore. It's
Spectrum?
Spectrum, yeah. Spectrum.
I didn't even pay that bill for a while. I just ignored it because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, eventually they'll turn you off. Okay. It's goodbye, you're out of here. Anyway, so.
What did Burt Lancaster say to you?
Wow, wasn't so much what he said. I was going to a meeting in a building in Century City, and a woman stopped me as I got out of the elevator, who was getting in the elevator, and she said, "Aren't you Carl Weathers?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh, Mr. Weathers, I work for Burt Lancaster, and he's upstairs, and I know he loves you. He would just love to meet you." Burt Lancaster?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up watching Burt Lancaster. I mean, come on, man. You know, him doing all the flips and the, you know, and being the circus guy and being the Western guy and being all those guys he was. And so I did the meeting, and I'm not kidding you, I was like really excited to meet Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
Why? Because he was excited to meet me. Come on, that's Burt Lancaster, right? So I'm all that, man, if I'm going to meet Burt Lancaster. So I went up to the office, and in the outer office, the secretary was at her desk, and she said, "Oh, Mr. Weathers, he's just in on a phone call. He'll be right out. He knows you're coming up." She buzzed, and he knew I was there, and literally, I mean, within a minute or so, he came out. And here's Burt Lancaster. First of all, he's dressed in a caftan. And not just some little simple thing. It had this great embroidery and all this kind of like fabric to it, right? And the beads around his neck and shit going around his wrist. I mean, it was just too cool to be, you know, for school. And he opens the door and he goes, "Hiya, kid." He does the thing with the hair that you've seen in the movies a million times, you know? I go, wow, man. And just, we had a brief conversation, you know, and I mean, I was like dumbstruck because I was a huge fan of Burt Lancaster's, you know. Before I even knew who Burt Lancaster was, I was a fan. And I had some other correspondence with him. I sent him a book for something I wanted to do. And one of the brilliant things, you know, sometimes rejection is not necessarily a bad thing, because there's something to learn from it. I read this wonderful book that I actually thought was brilliant, and I think it still is brilliant. But I sent it to Burt Lancaster.
You mailed him a book?
No, yeah, I mailed a book, actually, yeah. And after a very short time, he responded. And his response basically was, "I understand why you want to do this. I understand." And I mean, he literally wrote this. "I understand that there's not a lot of good work for black actors. but this is not you. This is a kid. You're a man. That's an interesting one. You know, it's like I had to sit with that for a bit because when I really started to sit with it for a while, I understood what he was saying. You know, so in terms of casting, you're not the right guy for this, man. You know, you bring way too much. You know, you bring way too much in this guy. And when I think about it in retrospect, yeah, because I'd have been too big in that role in this story. That would have been a little unbelievable. You know, it'd be different if you are somebody who is kind of a kid in every way. You know, but I wasn't. I was physically too much of a man, and the posture, the whole 9 yards. You know, it was just not right. At any rate, it was a kind way, and I think a very intelligent way of saying no. But I learned from it. You know, it was okay. It was okay. It was actually if there's a good no, that was a good no.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we just like rewind back to the very beginning.
Okay, now we're reversing.
We're reversing.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in New Orleans, so my birth certificate says. Geez, okay, we got some Nolans people here, huh? Okay, all right. Yeah, I was born in New Orleans and lived all in the city, by the way. A lot of people who say they were born in New Orleans, they're from places like Baton Rouge and Shreveport and, you know, God knows where, but they're not born in New Orleans. Slidell, I mean, all these places sort of outskirts, you know. No, I was born in New Orleans, and first house was in the place called the Irish Channel, which is really close to the river. I was like 2 blocks from the river, from the Mississippi, and really interesting area, because New Orleans is an interesting city for people who don't really know it. And that ain't necessarily good when you say interesting. There's a lot about that city that's really hard and really challenging. And certainly when I was a kid, you know, a million years ago, it was really challenging because we're talking about before the so-called civil rights era, you know. So lived in the Irish Channel, lived in 7th Ward, lived in the lower 9th Ward when all the flooding came, which was really, you know, because there are a lot of people with nothing who live in those places, you know. They're poor people who live there. And it's not like, you know, abject poverty, but it's working class poverty, you know. So in that city, and like many cities, when the worst tragedies hit, those people get hit the hardest because resources and the areas in which they live are just much more vulnerable to all kinds of issues, you know. But I lived there until I was my junior year in high school. And I went to St. Aug, which was an all-men's Catholic high school, and I was fortunately, I went there because I played football, and I was a good enough athlete to get a scholarship there, and so my parents, who could not have afforded to send me there.
What did your parents do for a living?
They were both working class people, not well-educated, working class people, you know.
They like films and
Hell no.
movies?
Are you kidding me? I mean, if they liked films, it was just to go to well, hell, I can remember going to the drive-in, but, you know, nobody was a student of film in the house, you know. I mean, for me, what was amazing about film was, well, we say film as a euphemism, but what was amazing about the movie theater, movies, was sitting there in that theater, escaping. Because as a kid, I mean, that's what I was really about. I was really escaping home. I was escaping what wasn't, for me, the most pleasant of situations. I was escaping all the stuff that I saw in and around New Orleans that had nothing to do with positive image of humanity in some cases, and that wasn't supportive of a kid who looked like me, who was my color. It was everything but supportive. And to go into the movie theater and to sit there in the darkness and to see the fantasy of those Westerns and to be a cowboy in your mind and to be one of those guys on the horse with the rest of the guys, you know, and then to see of course, there were war movies, there were
musicals.
There were music, but I wasn't really a big musical guy. Okay. I mean, I just wasn't, you know, that wasn't, I don't know that a lot of kids are really, who are kids who are athletes, you know?
Yeah.
The guys just, I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Anybody?
no.
Anybody?
But you know what that tells you? It tells you a lot about the person who asked that question, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Tells you a lot about.
Yeah,
I mean, look,
I guess
raise
so.
a hand. Seriously, how many guys in here love musicals?
We're
Okay,
counting, like,
wait. Now I said love musicals. I didn't
because
say
this
you
is
liked.
an audience
I said
of
love
actors.
musicals.
An audience of actors. You're
I
gonna
said
have
love
a high,
musicals.
Love
right?
them.
Okay.
Love 'em.
So
Be
what do we got?
proud.
We got like a handful.
We've got like
okay.
5.
Now let me go. How many of you love action movies? Guys, just guys.
Oh,
you see
we've
what
got
I mean?
like 100.
It's just not.
Yeah.
It's just not a genre that most
Yeah.
guys love.
Yeah.
They can appreciate
Yeah.
it. They'll go to it, but
Yeah.
it ain't the way we just swing immediately. Let's
Yeah.
go and do a musical. You know? It's just not. You know. And when I was in university, I did West Side Story.
Okay, so this is what
I
I'm
was a
talking
very
about.
dark
That's
Puerto
right.
Rican. You know what I mean? I was.
Sure.
I couldn't be a jet. I had to be a shark. Come on, you know. And let me see. What other musical did I do?
You did West Side Story. Which,
did West Side
part,
Story.
Do you remember?
I was just a dancing Puerto Rican.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did a version of the Orestes, and I did Caliban in school. And what else did I do? I mean, I did some stuff, you know,
Yeah.
but not that many musicals.
Is this San Diego?
Yeah,
Or-
San Diego
okay.
State. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over
No,
the
it's
place.
all right.
But yeah,
It's all good.
yeah,
It's all
yeah,
good.
San Diego State. But so no, musicals didn't necessarily interest me that much, but I really loved westerns.
Yes.
You know,
Who
because there was
did you look
action.
to? Who were the big
Well, Burt Lancaster was
Sure.
one of those guys in westerns. Geez, you know, as a kid, you kind of just liked just the western. It wasn't so much for me the actor.
Right.
You know, like certain people lock onto John Wayne or they'll lock onto somebody.
Right.
I didn't care who it was, as long as the guy had a gun and he was shooting and he was riding horses. I was happy, man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Absolutely.
I remember, and one of the things, you know, you talked about movies. One of the things that I think, one of the early memories that I have was in a Western, and it was 3D. So I was a really young kid with the glasses and the whole deal, you know, one blue and one red, you
Yes.
know, before they became now like hard. They were those paper, little funky paper glasses you put on. And I remember sitting in the theater looking at the movie screen, and I can't remember to this day which Western this was, but I remember a corral and the bad guys coming to get the good guys. And all these guys lining up around the corral to simply attack the guys in the house. And I remember one of the guys lighting a torch, right? No, the good guys in the house, to burn the bad guys out. And the camera jumps around from the perspective of the good guys, and the camera is thrown, the torch is thrown. And in 3D, here comes this torch right at you, flipping over this flame. And I remember going under the seat. That was one of the most beautiful memories I have because it scared the hell out of me, but it was all make-believe. But it was so vivid.
Like, Predator.
But no, of course, I mean, come on. Predator I couldn't have imagined, but I knew I loved, there was something about the art. And so in grade school was the time I did the first play.
What was it?
I don't know. I don't remember the name. I just remember I was a singing cowboy? I think I was. I was a singing cowboy. So there's your musical, if you will.
Yes.
And it was written by a teacher that I had, who was one of my heroes, you know, and he became what we all probably need as a kid, you know, someone that we can look up to and somehow who we want to emulate. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote this play for us in grade school, and I was cast in this play. And I remember being on stage, and I remember people laughing and applauding. Boy, you talk about getting bitten.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing like, we love you, we really, really love you. You know that thing there? It was over. That was it from that point on.
What grade do you remember?
I was 5th or 6th grade.
6th grade,
Yeah. And so when I then went off to junior high school, of course I had to find plays to do. And it wasn't like this conscious thing, but I was in choir, and then of course you're just kind of naturally, what they do at that age is it's all musicals, right? So you do that
See?
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that. I put my foot in my mouth. You see, there you go. You got some information there, don't you? But yeah, so I mean, I would do that, but it was always about the performance. It was about, somehow the art. I just loved it, And it was an escape for me again, and it still is to this day. Being somebody else and finding the humanity in somebody else and creating this thing out of words on a page, in collaboration with a group of people is just like the best.
Yeah.
It is,
So which came first, football or acting? Like getting bitten by the acting bug or the football bug?
No, it was the acting bug. But the football bug only probably came because it was another way, number one, to stay out of the house, because you had to practice after school. And number two, because I got to that age where girls weren't necessarily interested in guys in musicals doing tights. That's why most guys don't care about musicals also. Girls were interested in athletes. And so, let's be a football player. I actually went out for my first year in what is it now? Middle school? Middle school.
Middle school, junior high.
Yeah, junior high. I went out for every sport.
Did you play all of them?
Well, here's the deal. In all honesty, I made every sport, but I was terrible at all but one. And because I really believe to this day, which I think is a lesson for us all, since we're talking about stuff, which eventually we'll get to where we are with movies and that, but I am a firm believer that, and I mean, I am committed to this belief. This is not one of those, I believe this one day and the next day I believe something else, because I've experienced it. And it's proven to be absolutely, true. That if your intent is to participate in something, whatever that thing is, and you are not some sort of savant, some sort of God-given, virtuoso the day you start. If you commit to it fully, and you continue and continue and continue and continue, regardless of what's thrown in front of you, you will become good enough to do whatever it is you want to do. You may not get awards for it. You may not become a movie star, which some people confuse with being an actor, bless you. But you can do what you want to do, I remember when I was a very young actor in Los Angeles and I was going to I was taking lessons from a really wonderful teacher at the time. And then I found an even better teacher. But we were all, as actors tend to do, young actors tend to do.
Who was the wonderful teacher?
The wonderful teacher was a guy named Hugh Zetland, who actually started out as a photographer. But the spectacularly wonderful teacher was a man named Charles Conrad. And he came out of the sort of Meisner School of Acting and was a New Yorker, and many people got a chance to know Charles. And we had a class with some really spectacular, talented people, many of whom went on and did really spectacular work and, have great credits to their names. But group of actors, young actors, who were sitting around having lunch after class one day, and as actors do, they kind of hunker down together and talk shop. And server came up to us and, oh, you guys are actors, huh? Yeah. And for whatever reason, this person asked, what do you want to do? And basically, what do you see yourself doing, And everybody had an answer. I suppose my answer was, I really want to be a working actor, And I was in a relationship once with a woman, and I remember this vividly because she talked a lot about wanting to be an actress. And I heard that, and I heard that, and I heard that. And she never made it, realized it, And, when you see that, at a certain point, you say, really, wait a minute. If you really want to be an actor, there's so many little theaters out there. There's so many opportunities to be an actor. I mean, you can walk out of this door and probably throw a rock and hit enough places where actors, you can be an actor. But maybe you don't want to be an actor. Maybe you want to be a movie star. Mm-hmm. That's different. You can wait around for the next 35, 45, 150 years, and you may never be a movie star, but you can be an actor if you want. That may lead to you being a movie star. So, what your intention is and what you really want, you ought to check yourself and really ask yourself, what am I after, So anyway, that whole circuitous thing is, back to the sports. I was going out for the sports, and for some reason, I was just determined to make these teams. And I was terrible at everything except one thing. And to give you an example of how bad I was, basketball, right? I'd never played basketball. I mean, of course, as a kid out on the playground, you're shooting at the hoop and that kind of bull with a basketball. That isn't a basketball, of course. It's like the volleyball or some other ball. And first day, coach gets us to line up, and you got guys on this side, guys on this side. Okay, everybody's going to do layups. Now, I don't know what a layup is. I honestly had no idea what the hell he was talking about. But I'm watching everybody else, because I'd be damned if I'm going to be that embarrassed that I got to ask, what is a layup? So I see these guys doing this, and some of these guys are just doing this, and it's so easy. Carl's body didn't find it that easy. I could not do that 1, 2, 3, boom. I just couldn't make those steps. It was one of the most embarrassing moments in my young life. And I've had a few, but that is embarrassing. When you're standing out and there's all guys and you look like an idiot. Yeah. I mean, you really look bad, and you look bad.
Nothing worse.
That's Friday. I went home that weekend, and I was determined. And I had this deflated ball that was around my grandmother's house. And it was like one of those beach balls. And I mean a cheap beach ball, okay? Had no air in it. But I practiced all weekend long. And I didn't have a hoop. It was just up against the back of the house. By Monday, I could at least make a layup. It looked terrible, but I could make the steps and get it up there, right? Yeah. So forever in my life, I've used that as an example of whatever it is you want to do in life. If you commit to it with everything you got, man, your body is like any other muscle. It's like your brain, it'll do what you tell it to if you just keep at it. You just keep at it. It'll learn how to do it. You want to learn to crochet? If that's really something you want to do, damn it, sit down until you figure it out. Somebody will show you how to make the moves, and pretty soon you'll be able to do it in your sleep, because that's the way the human body works and the brain works. They'll get there. If you want to be an actor, go sit in a little theater with other group of people and just keep doing it until you start getting better at it and better at it. And you'll be embarrassed and you'll be terrible, and then you'll get better. And one day it'll get easier and then easier and easier. And pretty soon you'll start actually becoming proficient at the craft, right? But if you don't, you can wish in one hand and you know what in the other, and it'll never happen. So that was really such an amazing sort of lesson for me about everything. And if I wanted to be an actor, then I had to really start focusing on that craft,
When did you start focusing on it? Was it in high school as well, or middle school?
Yeah. Well, I walked away for a little bit, because in high school, when I went to this all-men's high school, playing football was everything. Yeah. It was the focus. And impossible in a way as a young black kid in New Orleans to even think that was possible. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It just wasn't a part of the culture. Yeah. Los Angeles, it's easy for a kid living in Los Angeles, or a kid living in New York. Come on, it's a piece of cake. Why are you failing? There's no way you can fail here. You may not become a movie star, but I guarantee you can be an actor. There is no question about it. Yeah. You know what? You'll be rejected. Yes. Guess what? That's part of the deal. But you'll be rejected if you go out and fill out what do you call it? An application for a job at McDonald's. People are rejected all the time. But if you really want to do that, man, you just have to stay on it. Learn the craft, learn the craft, learn the craft, learn the craft, learn the craft. Be committed to learning the craft, to being an artist, and eventually it'll work. It will work. You may never be the star, but you can work. People do it all the time. All the time. We have so many examples of that, And I'm an example of that, honestly. I just said, okay. I just didn't know, quite honestly, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was.
You thought acting was going to be a lot easier?
It's not acting. I thought...
Learning the craft.
No, not even learning the craft, because that's up to me.
Right.
But getting the jobs, that's a whole nother thing you got to learn something about, because that involves other people.
Skill set.
Yeah, but it involves other
others,
people. Yeah. Look, sort of for me, one of the simple adages that I kind of walk through the world with. Being concerned about things you cannot control, that's just wasting your time. And that's really a way for you to sidestep being in control of the things you can control, doing something about them. If you're throwing all your energy toward, my God, is it going to rain tomorrow? I got this big meeting, and oh man, I got to really plan on the rain. The rain may come down, and I'm really worried about it, because. How about just focusing on what you got to do in your meeting? If the rain comes, there ain't much you can do about it. So if I can't control it, man, I just do not give it a lot of energy. It is such a waste of time, and it's such a defeating thing to do.
At what point did you learn that lesson? Like, was there a moment when it hit you really hard?
Like yesterday, the day before,
day before
that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, all of these lessons have to be lessons that you repeat to yourself. It is almost to me like the lesson is never learned. The only thing that tells you that you kind of get it is that that's the way you live. And as soon as you start to live the other way, then clearly you haven't learned the message, So it has to be something that you practice. Like
daily practice.
Like people do, what's the thing, yoga?
Yeah, meditation, yoga.
Meditation, yeah. How can you say, I'm really good at it. When was the last time you meditate? When was the last time you sat quietly by yourself and did your meditation? Well, 5 years ago I did. Well, guess what? That was 5 years ago. You're not doing it today, then it's not being done. End of story. So, the practice of just about everything in our lives is the thing that ultimately will get us wherever it is we want to go. And if we don't get where we think we should be, guess what? If there is a next life, try it then. You know what I mean? Why worry about it? Why worry about it? I mean, it is not going to make any difference. I got a buddy who's an artist. He was just at the house, my house guest. Oh, he's crazier than a bed bug. And I love the guy. I've known him for 40 years. And look, I've spent so many weeks at his house year after year after year. And he's in Los Angeles now because he doesn't even have a house. He's just traveling around the world. He's a crazy guy. I don't know how he can live that way, but he does. He's making it. But, he worries about everything. I mean, he does. And he'll admit it. He worries about everything. And I keep saying to him, but Dario, have you noticed nothing changes if you worry?
Yeah.
Whatever's going to happen, it happens, man. And it always works out, so what are you worrying about? Give up the worry so you can just go ahead and do what you do,
Yeah.
You still paint. He's an artist. You still make money from it. You still pay for, you subsidize your life. You've owned homes as an artist. He's painted since he was 16. Why the hell does he continue to worry? It's been working. So what are you worried about, I don't know. But people do that. They do that.
Man, I've learned a lot.
No, I mean, to me, it's like, I have two sons. And people, who meet my sons very often will say to me, oh man, they're great. You must be so proud. You've really done a good job. And I really have to, as modestly as I can say to them, basically, you know what? I really give a lot of credit to their mother. She did a great job, I spent a lot of time with my sons. We did a lot of stuff together. But I have learned more about being a parent from my sons than I could have ever somehow taken credit for, because it's like being an actor. If you're not acting, how can you learn anything?
Right.
It's real simple. The learning is in the doing, you know? And so when you get out there and you stand across from another actor and you have to say those lines and do whatever it is you do, and the blocking and the this and the that and the props and the blop and the bip and the boop and the bop. And then you look at it on film. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So you got to ask yourself why. You know, and if you're a part of the equation, well, part of the reason it ain't working is because of me. You know, and with my sons, I look at them. Why are they great? They were in the equation. They taught me how to be a better father. You know, so in acting, the one thing back to Charles Conrad, I just tend to just all over the place, but it's kind of like that's the way it is. He used to do this thing where he would say, time after time, and really, really talk about learning a lot, is throw the energy out, always to the other person. And it's kind of like hitting tennis in my mind, right? The ball comes to you, you hit the ball back. You don't try to tell the person how to hit the ball to you. If they got top spin on it, you better adjust. If they hit it lob, you adjust. If they hit it across court, you adjust. You're just constantly adjusting, right? But you can adjust when you focus, when you pay attention, when your energy is over, you know, being thrown back. And so when you hit the ball, man, you're not, that's right, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready.
I'm ready.
You're ready.
We're doing it.
But you know what?
What?
But you know what? You know what's happening?
What?
You know what's happening?
What?
Your body's moving, everything.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have to play, that's
I
the
know.
dance. That's the dance. And so when we're, you know, doing what we do and practice what we practice, if you try to stay in your space and you try to somehow come with your preconceived plans of what you're going to do and how this is going to go and bam, 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 and do-da-doom, and bop, and do, and you're going to walk out, you're going to be great. And then the director throws a little curve to you, and then the actor throws a little curve to you, and then the lighting person, and then the sound guy, because they all get in your face and getting in, and I'm doing my thing to get myself ready to perform, right? And I got somebody who's been smoking. I got somebody who's just eating garlic. I've got somebody who has got rough hands when they're putting the mic on me. I've got somebody who screws with my wardrobe. And, you know, I got to get in the space, man. I got to be in the space. So I got to contend with all that stuff. So at the end of it, what I got to do is I got to like scrub my area, you know, just emotionally scrub it, right? And then I got to get with you, the actor, and we got to play. And we got to just hit it back and forth. So all of that stuff to me is, if you keep working and keep working and working and taking classes or whatever you're doing, focusing on the craft, you will get proficient at that, on being here now, doing what we have to do right now, you know? And if it's up, we'll be up together. If it's down, we'll be down together. You know, we can move, we can groove, we can do what we have to do. But anyway.
I just feel like throwing my cards on the floor and
Who cares
you know,
about
who
cards?
cares about
I
those
know,
cards?
who cares about
I
cards?
thought I was prepared. Does it matter?
No, but you are prepared because
You know?
you set the table and, you know, kind of let me ramble on here. So thank you, Carolyn.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
I'm wondering how you manage. So, okay, I'm sorry to be so linear in my thinking.
That's okay.
And going back
That's
to
okay.
like the timeline.
I've worked with linear people.
Right.
I can be that way too.
You can
I can,
adjust, you can
absolutely,
adjust to me. I'm
absolutely.
like,
Let me tell you.
linear.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how you went from football to acting. Like you
Oh,
made
okay.
a decision
Yeah.
at some point. You had this practice.
Yeah.
You had a profession.
Yeah.
Before you did any of this stuff, you had a totally different profession.
Yes. Well, okay, let's just back up a little bit about football. Football I fell in love with because, and there's something in this. Football, at its core, is a meritocracy. This business we're in is not. You can be whatever you are and look a particular way and fall off the turnip truck and you'll be put in a movie. You'll be given a commercial. You'll be put in front of a camera and they'll photograph you and put you on a billboard to sell whatever. There's nothing about merit that the business we're in is about. So with football, you learn discipline. You really try to be in great shape because you know what you do is going to be dependent on that. You try to learn the position that you play really well. And you try to basically do everything you can to increase your proficiency as an athlete, right? And on top of that, you try to stay healthy. Those things are really important. When you play football, the guy on the other side of the line, if you play defense, then of course the offensive player who knows where they're going is trying to get there. And you, the defensive player, is trying to stop them from getting there. Conversely, if you are offensive player, you know that where you're going and you're trying to make sure that the guy on the other side, the defensive player, doesn't stop you. So there are 11 positions in American football on each side of the line. So each guy, for more or less, has a guy that is his opponent.
You're like acting with.
There you go. That's a way of looking at it. Yeah. The only thing is when they hit you, they really hit you.
Yeah, it's not play. It's not play.
In acting they slip sometimes.
Yeah. It's an accident.
Or it's designed that way sometimes. Yeah. But in football, it's always designed that way. Yeah. At any rate, it's a meritocracy. So if you're good, if you're great, if you are really the best at what you do, it will show up. There's no way to hide it. And guess what? In today's world, you will work and you will be paid quite a lot of money to do what you do. It's a meritocracy. And once your skills diminish and you are not as good as you used to be, you'll be kicked to the curb and the next great player will come in. That's the way it is. And as a player, you accept that in sports. At the end of the day, what you really also learn is you are your own opponent. How much are you willing to do to become as great as you can become? So there's the similarity in this business, right? You are the person. Basically, at the end of the day, you want to be an actor, like I said, you may not, be the star of some movie at Universal or Paramount or any one of those big studios, or even in somebody's indie, or even in a student film. But you can still be an actor, right? Good at the craft, just working and becoming better at the craft. So there I am playing football, and I'm starting to get injured a lot. And I was a theater major, so I had that thing that I loved.
We're back at San Diego State. Right?
San Diego State, yeah, but I mean, all of that is a part of the football thing, because I was theater major and I was playing football.
Yeah.
So I was a little
You're
bit
balancing it.
I was a schizophrenic is what I was,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out who I was and what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I liked both of them.
And all the girls liked you.
Not all of them. There were a few that did.
You had like both. You had the theater kids.
But,
you had
but
the football.
It didn't matter. I mean, I was more than anything. As much as that's important to a guy, it's also important just to be really good at what you do. Sure. To have the respect of your peers. That's so important. And sometimes we forget that in our effort to do all this stuff.
So you were acting in plays in
I was
college.
acting in plays in college, and I was playing football, and eventually both those things were over, right? And I was playing, and I was not drafted. I had some injuries, injury prone, obviously. And I got a chance to go and try out as a free agent for the Oakland Raiders, and I did. And that year, there were few free agents. Free agent is someone that isn't drafted, Now they're much more PC. You're undrafted now. How can you be undrafted? That doesn't make sense. It's a dumb word. But anyway, at any rate, so I go to the Oakland Raiders, and I didn't know. I was so honestly so naive, and ignorant, but really naive, that I had no idea of what I was up against. When those guys are drafted, those guys get paid money, a lot of money. And when you're undrafted, you don't get paid jack.
Really?
Nothing compared to what they're getting paid.
Right.
At any rate, that year, I was the only free agent that made the team. There was number one draft choice, a guy named Ray Chester, who was a tight end, who played for the Raiders, and then he went on and played back east. I can't remember where, but it was a really good player. There was, I think the number 2 was, what was Ted's name? Ted, can't remember what Ted's last name was. But anyway, there was another guy who was number 2, and then there was number 3, who was a guy named Jerry Irons, who became a friend. He was a linebacker, I was a linebacker, and we happened to be roommates when I was a rookie. And so all the rookies, of course, kind of stick together because you get so much shit from the veterans that, it's kind of like, this is the way you survive, by sticking together. It's kind of like fish in a bowl. You just keep together, because the sharks don't eat you, But anyway, I made the Raiders, and then second year with the Raiders, I got through the first year and had a few injuries, but I made the team. And we went to the first year of playoffs, first round of the playoffs, and then we got knocked off, and I think we were playing the Jets, playing at Shea Stadium. So to be on the same field. I look back now, as a kid, none of this stuff it didn't matter to me. I was just, like big eyes trying to make it, But on the field with some of the greats,
yeah.
Really greats, Joe Namath and people like that, and I'm this kid, like trying to figure out where to put my right foot, and I'm playing with these great pros. And of course on the Raiders, there was Fred Biletnikoff, there was Warren Wells, there was Blanda, LaMonica, Stabler, there was Jim Otto, there was, I'm forgetting names, Brown, Willie Brown. I'm talking about Hall of Famers. There was Gene Upshaw, there was Art Shell, who became coach of the Raiders many years later. There was Marv Hubbard. There was, ultimately, I played with Pete Banaszak. There was, oh God, what's his name? Somebody knows, a strong safety who, no, Lester Hayes was a cornerback. Jack Tatum. All these guys, I got to play with. And I look back in retrospect now and think, man, you were with some heavyweights.
Awesome.
Yeah, I look back now, because at the time, I was just doing what I was doing, I was a guy out there just trying to make it, But I admired those guys, and I was one of those guys for a minute. And then the second year, I was there for a while, and the great Al Davis over the summer decided he was going to make a project of me. Al always did with everyone. And the project was he was going to switch me from linebacker to strong safety. Now, anybody knows football is the reason I was an outside linebacker is because I had speed and I could cover running backs down the field, which is really important if you know football. And also I could, play up on the line, that kind of stuff. But, man, playing strong safety is a whole other animal. That's a different position, regardless of how fast you are. And it takes time to make those sort of transition. So I didn't quite make that transition fast enough, and I was out of there. And then I was looking for a job, and something opened up in Canada, so I went to Canada and played for the BC Lions and was there for that part of the year and 2 other years. And then at the end of that, I knew the handwriting was on the wall because I wasn't loving it anymore. I wasn't having fun. I was getting a paycheck, but that's never been my biggest motivation. It's always been about doing what I'm doing and getting better at it, and really, I gotta like it, I gotta enjoy it. Yeah. And so I decided, it's over, I'm gonna go to Los Angeles and give myself a year to make it. That's why I just threw that out there, because that's the joke. I really did say that.
Well, you really did make it, like almost in a year, just about, right? Because that was like...
Yeah, but that's so naive. That's my point. Yes, I did do it. Yeah. But I didn't know how challenging it is. That's my point.
Oh, right.
I've always done it. But I didn't go into it not knowing that it was going to be hard. I go into it, I can do it, Yeah. Give it to Mikey, he'll eat it. Okay, I'm Mikey, I'll eat it, I'll try it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's been me my whole life. Because I just don't know how to consider when it's something I really want to do, that I can't do it. It's like that basketball thing.
Right.
This goes right back to that, man.
Yeah.
That was the biggest lesson I have ever had in my life about if you want to do something, it's up to you.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Now, guess what? I might have come here and, again, because it's not a meritocracy, and we can definitely talk about that, about some of the challenges. But man, it could have been, I could have been the kind of guy who said, well, I can't make it in this. This is look at who I'm standing across
All
from.
that
Look at them getting that
competition,
job.
yeah.
Look at this guy, how he looks, and he's got that. And look at this guy, he's got a role, and he's number 1 on the call sheet or number 2 on the call sheet.
You didn't do this.
And I'm not barely on the call sheet. You look down at the bottom, and I'm number 18. No, because I didn't know that you compared yourselves.
Okay.
Why would I compare myself to them? Because I know who I am. I'm the guy who should be 1 on the call sheet.
There you go.
I mean, you know. But, and I don't mean it from an egoistic point of view. I'm saying this because, look, if there is a movie, a television show, whatever it is, if there's a story being told, and you get a role in that creation, why would you ever look at the role you play as a subservient role, as a secondary role, as any other role, but that role is about this character who this whole thing centers, is the center of this whole thing. In your life, nobody walks through their life saying, I'm a secondary character in the world. Everybody says they're the star of their life. I mean, that's so natural, you know? So why is it that you would adopt the position as a talent, as an artist, that you are secondary? I don't give a damn where you are on the call sheet. You know what I mean? When you step in front of the camera, make it your space. And I don't mean that by trying to subvert the other person, elbowing them out of the 2-shot or the 3-shot or even the crowd shot if you're just, but you know what? Man, because of the kind of energy you bring to it, they're gonna see you. You know? Conrad used to say this thing that was, Charles Conrad, the acting coach. Right. It was one of those lessons you get. He says, you know, just in people doing the scenes, I'm one of them, people doing the scenes, and Charles would stop you, you know, and tell you how, basically, he wouldn't use these words, but he'd tell you how phony you're being. You know, you're not being real. This moment, not you, but this moment is going this way. Why are you taking that turn? Why? I mean, if somebody's screaming at you, what do you mean? You start being nice to them? Why are you being nice to them? You know? Unless there's something in this thing that you have some way of making this yours. But if somebody's screaming at you, either you're gonna cry, break down, you're gonna scream back, you're gonna stand up and punch the hell out of them, you're gonna do something. You're gonna stay in the scene, right? So Charles used to say, if you have a cat and you have an aquarium and you have these beautiful fish in the aquarium, what is the most interesting thing that's happening in that scenario? And a lot of people would, of course, come up with the fish because they're beautiful and have all kinds of ways of explaining the fish and what they visualize. Nah, it's the cat. You know why it's the cat? Because the cat's attention on those fish. Everything is in his body or her body, and their tail might be moving. But there's only one reason, man, because they're waiting for the opportunity. That, to me, was another lesson. So if we're in front of the camera together, I'm watching everything you do. And I'm listening, really listening. Because when you throw out that little inflection in your voice that pisses me off, guess what? You're going to hear about it. I don't have to scream it, but you're going to hear it. I heard you. I heard where you were going with that. Or if you do something that does something else, I'm going to respond to it. And I can utilize the exact same words that are on the page, but when I've talked to people about acting, I always use this example because I think it's a brilliant example. Maybe you won't, but I think it is. When you see the words, I love you on a page, right? So many people will adapt sentimentality to it. You know, you work with an actor or an actress and they start crying, and what do you want to do? Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Bullshit. That's not the way we are in life. You might say, what the hell are you crying about? And if you love the person, damn it, I love you. What the hell are you crying about? You got nothing to cry about. I love you. I go out every day and I do what I do, and you sit here and you can cry? Fuck. Now the other thing, no, here's the other thing though. Wait. Here's the other thing, okay? So she's crying. Crying. Come on, what are you crying about? I love you. love you. There's no reason for you to cry. Okay? But there's so many ways to say I love you, because it depends on the moment, not on the words. You know, the words is like a map for you to get from here to there. But guess what? Along the way, all kinds of shit goes down. And it may not be a fun ride. It could be a crash in the middle of it. And every word is I love you, 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 I love you. I mean, there's so many different ways, right? And so all of that stuff for me, all those lessons along the way, if you really listen to what's going on, you know, you can pick up stuff from people. And I just happened to have an acting coach at the time who I was really receptive to and open to, and we sat there and we all just were fed these gems from this guy, you know? And he was a madman, of course, but many geniuses are kind of crazy, you know? Yeah. But you still, even a blind pig can find an acorn. So no matter where it comes from, you know, take it, man, take it, you know? Anyway.
That'll be $1,100 for each one of you.
Actually, if you've only got $60 in your checking account, I'll take that too. Depends on the individual, okay? We got a moving scale here. People, you know what the reference is, of course, right? Arrested Development. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Some people don't know that.
You just like got right into the character, you just did it. Yeah. So what was the job that you got your SAG card on?
I'm not sure. I think the job I got my SAG card on, was in San Francisco. I think. And I'll tell you, if I remember correctly, pardon me, there was a, by the way, it was a long time ago. I remember it as being 1971. That's how long ago it was. I was a mere baby. But on my SAG card it says 73. So I think SAG lies. Is that okay to say that here? They'll come after me? No. I think it was because I was doing commercials. Okay. And I did a lot of commercials while I was living in San Francisco in the off season. And I did, first movie, let me just back up a little. Yeah. First movie I ever worked on, I was an extra. Okay. And I went to that because I wanted to become an actor. And it was a movie called The Candidate, which you remember, right? Yeah. Robert Redford. And it was shot in downtown Oakland. And I showed up and was in this crowd scene in this theater. I think it was called the Paramount Theater. It was the Grand Theater, some theater anyway.
You were a Raider at the time.
I was a Raider, right. And you know, I'm dressed in all my early 70s finery. Bell bottoms, the whole 9 yards. It was ridiculous. And so I'm on stage, and I remember so well that Redford's up doing this speech to this crowd of people, and of course he's got these people in the background who are just like any politician has today. And at the end of it, you know, I'm trying to figure out, I got no lines, I got nothing, I'm just standing here. Been here all day. I don't want to do this, that's for sure. I want to be an actor. I want to be the guy. I want to be Robert Redford, okay? So for some reason, don't ask me why, I walked past him as he's finished at the end. I just touched him on the shoulder and gave him so I'd be in the thing. Now, I don't even know if it's in there or if you even see it, because it could have been in his close-up, you know? You just see some guy's black hand come and touch him on the film. But that's my hand. So, you know, I decided that day, that's it. I don't want to be an extra. This is not, and it's not that I think that is, you know, a job unworthy of human beings. It's just that I wanted to be Robert Redford, right? So I was doing these commercials, and there was a movie that came along that was, I think, one of the, no, I don't remember what the movie was. I want to say it was Eastwood movie, but I don't think it was. I think it was somebody like Walter Matthau or somebody like that. But anyway, this big movie came along, and and there was a huge crowd scene, and it was your bailiwick. Labor.
Okay.
It was a whole labor thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Working labor, you guys.
Yeah, we were
I mean,
talking
I'm still
labor.
in labor, but
We were talking
organized
earlier.
for unions anyways.
So there was this big, people with the signs and the whole 9 yards, you know. And my agent sent me the sides, what my lines were. So I figure I got the role, man. I'm gonna, you know, I'm learning those lines, and I have a terrible memory, folks. There's another little lesson there, right? Doesn't matter. Do the best you can, they'll piece it together. Good directors will piece it together, and you look brilliant, which is why most of you think I'm really good at what I do. They piece it together. I can give them 15 seconds, man. 15 minutes, it might be hard to ask me to hold it for 15 minutes, but 15 seconds, put all those 15 seconds together, brilliant. But anyway, they send these lines out. So I get there the next morning, I'm dressed to the nines, right? Ready to go and do my thing out there and give my speech when they put the mic in my face, because, you know, I'm involved in the labor movement. Well, we get there and the director shows up. And the director says, okay, for this role, raise your hand. I raise my hand, but so do 5 other guys. They gave us all the same sides. So the deal is, guess what? The director is going to make the choice of who he wants at that moment. So one guy is actually dressed like he's there to pick it, with the hard hat and the this and the that, and he's big burly guy. You are the one. I became an extra again all of a sudden. But I was paid SAG wages for the day. So
That's how you got your card?
I think that was it. I think that was it. And so, you know, thank God it happened then, and you know, pay the dues because you won't work again, the Taft-Hartley and all that sort of stuff. And it's a lot more today than it used to be then. I don't remember what it was, but I know it was a pittance compared to what it is now.
Right.
You know? But yeah, that was it. But I did a lot of commercials, and yeah, it was mostly commercials at first, you know. And how I actually wound up coming here is there was a play that was written called the Ballad of Dangerous George or something like that. And Al, where are you? Al's here, right? Al White. This guy I know from San Francisco.
Right.
So Al knows this story. So this role came along, and I went and I auditioned for it. And you know, the director has 2 people that he's interested in. It's me and it's Al.
Whoa.
And
Like real life Rocky and Apollo.
Oh, geez. No, it was actually Rocky and Rocky, okay? Because I, you know, as much as I wanted to stay in San Francisco, I just felt like it was time. And even though I had a chance to play this role, which was a fantastic role in a fantastic play, I decided, no, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. And, you know, Al did that and was a smash in it, and then went on and became a fantastic talent, ACT and the whole 9 yards. I mean, a really talented guy, and a guy who has done, you know, really beautiful work. But I just made that choice then, you know, that I wanted to come here. I wasn't really that interested in theater. I was really much more interested in, you know, in film and being in front of the camera. And I came here, and as I said I was going to give myself a year, and within probably 6 months I was working.
What were you working on?
I was working on a really terrible movie called Four Deuces.
Okay.
And I met a casting agent who was casting that movie for a director who had a relative that lived in San Francisco and heard of me through that relative. And so somehow I was invited to read for this thing, and I was a singing cab driver.
Yes, you were.
The musical person.
That's
here.
right.
You had this plan all along, didn't you? So anyway, I do this movie, and the movie was never released here for the theater. I think it was released in Israel or someplace like that. I think it was Israeli money or something like that. At any rate, the movie's made. I play the singing cab driver, and at the very end of the ride I give to, I think it was Jack Palance, right? I get blown up in the cab. Jack escapes it, and I get blown up in the can. So either I'm getting blown up,
Yeah.
I'm losing my hand, I'm
Yeah.
losing my leg, I'm losing
Your
I'm losing
arm.
my head, my
Yeah.
arm,
You
I'm
drown
losing
in the
something.
river or the ocean.
That's
Remember that
right, I
one?
drown in oceans, I do
Yeah.
it all. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. I give death a great name. I go down everywhere. But anyway, that was how it started. And once I did that movie, then AIP, the famous AIP, you know, American International Pictures, which did all the quote-unquote blaxploitation stuff at the time. I became kind of a player there because of a really wonderful director named Arthur Marks. And I got to know, I mean, boy, it just takes you back. I forget some of this stuff now talking about it.
It's good. You did Bucktown.
Arthur Marks directed it.
And you did Friday Foster.
Yeah, and
Friday Foster.
that was close enough. Foster Friday, yeah. So yeah, both those were directed by Arthur Marks.
Both of them starred Pam Grier.
Yes, great actors.
Yeah.
Yaphet Kotto,
Yes.
Thalmas Rasulullah,
Yep.
who was really a fantastic actor.
Fred Williamson.
Fred Williamson was in front.
Another former NFL.
Former NFL player. Who else can I think of that really went on and made?
Ted Lange. Who's here?
Ted Lange, right.
He's here with us tonight.
Ted and I worked together a few
way in the back.
times.
Yeah.
By the way, talk about talented people.
He was in Friday Foster. Yeah.
But of course, many.
He was
That's
the
right.
assassin.
That's right. And don't you forget it, Ted. I'm the bad guy. I come for you. But you know, but speaking of Ted, immensely talented actor, writer, director. And I have had the really good fortune to be able to stand there with one of Ted's scripts in my hand in front of a group of people. And you know, we all together entertained people. And as a storyteller, the thing that Ted does so well is Ted has written this series of plays that basically deal with American history, but basically about black folks in American history. So it's not like, you know, he has allowed the contributions and the characters who existed and were central to what was going on in America to like die. He researches this stuff and really creates these wonderful plays that are historically fact-based. So, you know, he's like one of my heroes because of his immense talent and also, be quiet, will you?
Yeah.
Be quiet, come on. No, he is. And his lovely wife, you know, produces the stuff, and together they really are a fantastic team. So, you know, yeah, Ted had the great fortune to work with Ted and so many wonderful actors over the years. But those early years with the AIP films, and then I did a lot of television, my God.
Yeah.
And that, like 2.5 years before Rocky, which it took from the time I got here, it was about 2.5 years later.
Until it came out in the theater.
No, until we were
got the
shooting
role.
it.
Until you got to shoot.
We were shooting it. Because I came here in '74, and that was like '76
Right.
for Rocky when
Right.
we were making it. But I did everything from, well, the good thing is there was, at that time, what was great about television, as far as I was concerned, was you had really prolific producers, and one of them was Quinn Martin. And Quinn Martin did, anybody remembers Quinn Martin and the great shows, you know, Streets of San Francisco, Barnaby Jones, Cannon. I mean, he did all these really spectacular shows, and the great thing about then was you could be a cop at the beginning of the season, and then at the end of the season, you could play a bad guy. And I did on all these shows, right? So you could really kind of learn your chops working for QM. And when they liked you, and they had a great casting woman named, was it Dodie Goodman? Anybody remember that name? I think it was. I think that was her name. But when she liked you as an actor, you would work, man. You would work. You'd be brought back. You'd become one of the, Quinn Martin repertory players. And so you'd work in all of his shows. And one of the very last shows I did was a show he did that was really short-lived called Tales of the Unexpected. And they were like hour-and-a-half movies, like many movies, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a chance to work with Ozzie and Harriet, Rick Nelson, you know, with Ricky Nelson, in this show where it was about a baseball player, and the baseball player loses his hand, so he's got one hand.
Oh, you're like
and I was the
kindred
catcher.
spirit.
I was the catcher,
Yeah.
and Rick Nelson was the pitcher. So a lot of really interesting people over the years, and of course in all the television series, Del Vecchio, Streets of San Francisco, Good Times,
Yep.
my God, SWAT, Switch, Cannon, Kung Fu, oh man, the thing called the Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
There was a thing called the Cowboys that was a short-lived series. So many really wonderful actors and you know, guys doing television then who were major stars.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're learning your chops.
Yeah.
And then comes along a script.
Yeah. I get this call from my then agent, and she tells me they have the script, and I think you'd be great in this, and I'm going to send it to you, but don't let anybody know I send it to you because it's not supposed to be out. Okay, I read this thing. Oh my God, this is me. I can do this. This guy, oh yeah, this is me. So I let him know how much I loved it, and yeah, I could do this. And then she tells me, but they don't really want to meet you. They want somebody that is known. They want either an actor who's a great athlete that is known, or they want an athlete, a boxer preferably, who can act. And so they see all these people, and none of them obviously are up to the speed, can do this, except at the time, who fought Ali and broke his jaw? No, Ken Norton, not Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton. So Ken Norton is an actor at the time, and is actually doing quite well. And Ken, anybody who ever saw Ken Norton's body, you go, that guy was gorgeous. And that was, and I'll tell you something, that was real. This was not drugs. This dude was built like an Adonis. I mean, a waist like that and just shoulders out to here. And it was scary how this dude was built. And he was like 6'3", 6'4".
Wow.
I mean, you know, I'm 6'2", but this dude was insanely put together. So, there is a movie being cast at the same time that Rocky is being cast. They can't get anybody because they wanted Ken, and he was an actor at the time. But Dino De Laurentiis is doing a movie called Drum, which some of you may remember. Well, I go to read for Drum, but not for the movie, not for the role. There was a role in it that was Drum's father. So I read for that, and they really liked me. And I guess there was an offer put out for me. And the guy who, when I went over there, I got to back up a little bit. When I went there, they used to have offices on Cannon Drive, and right off the corner in this magnificent building with a big winding sort of staircase that was like, you know, going to what's the name of the movie? Gone with the Wind. I mean, it was just ridiculous, you know? And along the wall, of course, they had these pictures of movie stars, and Dino De Laurentiis was Dino De Laurentiis, right? So I go over and I audition for this thing, read for them, and as I'm going in, up to read, there's a guy named Ralph Serpi, who was like Dino's right-hand person, producer. And he looks at me, and he looks at the picture, and he looks at me, and he looks at the picture of who's going to be Drum, right? Yeah. I think I'm in, and as it turns out, I read and I am in. But eventually, after the people at Rocky not being able to find anybody, I get a chance to go in and read for it. And long story short, there's a cattle call out there, but I get an opportunity to play this role. Difference is, though.
So did you go into audition?
Oh yeah, of course I had to.
Do you
go to
remember
audition.
what the audition?
Of course. You people have heard this story a million times.
Have you?
Oh, you haven't? Okay, all right, okay.
Here we go.
So it's a cattle call. It's on a Friday afternoon, and I guarantee there's every black actor who's over 5 feet is in that room, okay? All right? I mean, it was like lining the walls, okay? And so you're in there and you wait your turn, and finally it's my turn. And I go in, and I'm chomping at the bit, man. I want this role so badly. I mean, I don't think I've ever wanted a role maybe as badly as I wanted that one that I had to audition for, right? So the producers, Bob Chartoff, Erwin Winkler in there, John Avildsen is in there, and I think there were one or two other people in there. And they're seated. We were in Bob or Erwin's office. Eventually, the office you see, that's Apollo's office in the first movie, that's the producer's office, because they didn't have any money on this picture. This picture was budgeted under $1 million. And they made it for just over $1 million, so the producers, the story goes, has to hawk their house, because UAMGM wasn't going to give them any more money. That's why those guys are so filthy rich today, because they put their asses on the line to finish this movie. Movie came in at just over $1 million. It had made God knows how much now over the years. But anyway, so they're there. Finally, the guy comes out of a door, literally like right there, and I'm standing there after, the sort of initial little conversation. Guy sits down, and I'm standing up, and they introduce me as, the writer, and okay. So we take that moment, look at each other, and then he proceeds to look down at the script and read, kind of mumble through it. And I'm just emoting, man. I'm giving it everything I got. Because he's like down on energy, and I'm pulling the thing up, and I'm Apollo Creed, right? So at the end of it, there's kind of silence, a little cricket kind of noise, and I got to save this. So I turned to him, and with all this enthusiasm, I said to them, if you get me a real actor, I can do a much better job. And I got laughter, and I'm thinking, what was so funny about that? I'm real serious, So the writer kind of looks up at me and just gives me this look. I still don't know that this is the guy who is starring in the movie playing Rocky, because they never told me that. They just said he was the writer, okay? I got a call back. So eventually, now they want to know if I can box. And of course, I lie to them and tell them, of course I can box. Because I played ball in Canada, and I would do all these club boxing, in the off season. And I'd go here and there and there. Lie. Never boxed in my life. So they then get a professional boxer, a guy named Frankie Crawford, who was a great middleweight, I think. And he might have been lightweight. I think he was middleweight. But anyway, Frankie and oh God, I forget his name right now. He was in the movie, the short guy. I can't remember the actor's name. At any rate, because he was in the boxing world. His dad was a cornerman or a trainer or something. That's why we had so many guys in there who were real boxers and came from that world. At any rate, they take me to a gym, and I get in the ring with Frankie Crawford. If anybody in here is a boxer or started out boxing, put those gloves on, and 3-minute rounds feels like 30 years of your life. I will tell you something, when you don't know what you're doing, the amount of energy you burn and expend with tension, you cannot lift your arms at the end of 3 rounds, let alone throw a punch. I mean, by the end of a minute, man, you are burnt out because you are breathing so hard you don't know how to relax. So Frankie took me in there. And
you're sparring with him, or you're with a bag?
But the truth of the matter is, you want to call it sparring? He was so fast and so quick, every time I throw a punch out, he'd be like 4 punches he'd countered with and then moved off. And I'm just chasing him around. But what I did have was, I had balance and I was an athlete. So it wasn't like I just didn't know how to move. And at the end of it, these guys went back and told him, you know what? Yeah, I think he can do it. And thank God for them, because man, was I bad. Relative to what I became, because of course I had to go and really learn to box, which I did.
Where did you do that?
Movie time, man. They just built a place and put us in a gym, built a little gym and put us in there where we had, closed off. We didn't have to deal with people,
And they gave you trainers?
Absolutely, give us trainers, people who know how to box. And here's an interesting, just little stories about this business. We had, in the very beginning, a stuntman who was a very well-known stuntman. Won't mention any names. And he was very good at what he did. And he was basically, he was going to be a stuntman. He was going to teach us to box. And he was very much a classic kind of trained boxer, right? That's real upright kind of stuff, you know? Come on, man. That's good, but once you get in there and you got to play the best boxer in the world, you got to know how to move. You got to be sweet. You got to be on your feet and be, you know, all those things, right? So anyway, we're kind of getting progress done. And then he quits. Why does he quit? Because there's a movie being made, like, I don't know what the budget was, but let's say compared to us, it's like a $100 million movie. So you know his payday is going to be a lot bigger than it is with us. He quits and he goes off. And we got his protege. His protege wound up taking over. It's interesting how things happen. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to those movies. Because the protege was not this guy who was going to tell you this is how it had to be done. You know, he let us kind of work it out and figure it out. Now he could take the credit. Even a blind pig can find an acorn. Back to that, okay? You never know where it's going to come from, man. But so we had him, and then we had a great stuntman named Jimmy Nickerson later on. And I saw Jimmy one time. These are stuntmen. You got to love them, okay? Because they're a part of the business and a real important part of the business. Oh, they are. Give them props. I mean, some of the great guys I've worked with, unfortunately, not even here, but I just ran into one the other night who, at the beginning of my career, Bob Miner. Got to give Bob props. Because, man, without Bob Miner, you know, in some of the movies I did early on, those AIP movies and stuff like that, I didn't ever look as good as I looked. Because Bob, you know, Bob was the guy doing the stuff. You know, I mean, he really was taking the falls and all that. And some of the other guys, Tony Brubaker and guys like that. And I mean, these guys driving cars when you're supposed to be that great at it, right? I mean, these guys, and particularly in the Black Stuntmen's Association, because I happen to be black, those were the guys who were doubling me, right? And those guys don't get enough credit. They really don't. I mean, all of the stuntmen. Because Jimmy Nickerson was not black, but Jimmy came in on the Rocky movies. And I was going to say the last time I remember seeing Jimmy, bless him, was in a body cast. Jimmy was like a machine. He just keep going. Most of the stunt guys, they'll get beaten up, man. They'll get injured really badly. Shit, those guys are back up and on the horse. So, you know, you just have to give props to them because without those guys, actors, forget it. You know, you think you're tough, you ain't tough. See what those guys go through. And I've been there firsthand, man. See these guys, some of them get hurt really badly, you know. But anyway, Jimmy Nickerson came in and he did a great job in the subsequent movies. And, oh boy, I remember one day we're doing press, you know, doing promotion for one of the movies. And guys with the cameras, you know, and dumb ass actor. We worked the whole thing out of what we're gonna do. And Jimmy there, he's holding the big heavy bag, right? And I'm doing all this stuff and I'm doing these great moves and these shots, and for some reason I'm gonna improvise. And Jimmy, I do a little feint, and Jimmy knew where he was supposed to be, and then I throw a hook. It just so happens that we'd not practiced that. So Jimmy's face happened to be right where I threw that hook. Snap, blood just running down his nose, right? Man. And I just see his eyes for a moment. And I really felt bad, really bad.
Yeah.
I thought Jimmy was gonna beat the shit out of me, to be honest with you. You know what? Wiped it off, blew it off. Let's go, man, let's go. Guys like that, you know, you can't say enough good things about them because they keep us all alive and safe if we're not stupid and try to do too much ourselves. And I can attest to that in my younger years, doing stupid things I shouldn't have done. So, lesson, if a stuntman is hired to do it, let him do it. You gotta hit the ground, guess what? Stuntman takes the big fall, you're on your hip, you do the little fall in the close-up, and it looks perfect. Do not take the big fall. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Yes.
Wow. I'm thinking about, though, a fall in Rocky II, I think, when the two of you go down together.
Yeah.
Slow motion. I mean, that is you and him,
oh, yeah.
right?
That's us, yeah.
Okay. So you had to take the big fall.
Well, that
Every
wasn't
now
some of the, yeah, every now and then. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't, but trust me, I hurt myself when I did that.
Did you?
Of course, because, we don't think about it at the moment. You're all warm and lathered up and blah, blah, blah. But
Lots of
200
lather.
well, yeah, you need lots of lather. You got to be warm.
much
You gotta
lather.
that's right, you got to be warm.
That was actually one of my questions. I was like, how many bottles of oil did you use?
No,
for those things?
wait. Let's just back up. You know how Caroline really enjoyed the lots of lather? She was like, ooh, No, the fall. Let's deal with the fall. Then we'll go to the oil.
Okay,
Then we'll go to the
okay,
oil, okay?
Fair enough.
No, when you take a fall that big, and you really don't the idea is you don't want to catch yourself because it doesn't look real then, right? So I went down sort of on this one shoulder, and I've injured my shoulders so many times from football and that kind of thing, doing stupid things, not things with the pads on, but doing stupid stuff. That thing to this day, Happy Gilmore, tell you right now, going out of that window backwards, I pay for it today. I didn't know it at the time. I injured myself and I thought I just torn a little muscle. Years later, when it really started to bother me, like to the point where it became debilitating, did the MRIs and the x-rays, I'd fractured 2 vertebrae. From those 2 fractures, osteophyte grew out and self-fused the 2 vertebrae. So everything above them and below them, right, just gets worn and messed up, wear the pads down, and guess what? It's called arthritis. In the spine, it ain't fun.
No.
So again, I'm telling you, man, the lesson is, do not do a lot of that stuff yourself. I should have told the director when I saw what he wanted me to do out the window backwards, a blind fall. It's like, okay, it's only 6 feet. But guess what? You hit it wrong, you break your neck, that's the end of your career. You hurt your back later on, it will mess with you. Don't do that stupid stuff, man. If they want to get it in the shot, shoot it another way. That's why stuntman's here. That's what they get paid for. Actors, I don't care how physical you are, how handy you are, man, don't do it. I'll give you another one.
All right.
It was a television series, we were doing a pilot for it called Breaker at MGM a million years ago. And I'm pretty good, I'm pretty handy. And here I am in this jacked up Mustang, fastback Mustang, hatchback Mustang. Another thing, in the rehearsals, film the rehearsals, especially today. It's digital. What damn difference does it make? You have these directors, oh, no. Why not? You can throw it away, okay? There might be Jim in it. And if you get it, then you don't have to do it again. So this time we're using film because it's a billion years ago, right? We got a camera sitting in the back of the thing, and this is the rehearsal. And I'm chasing a car. And okay, I'm gonna drive the car, and we got the camera back there, and my co-star is in the right, sitting in the passenger seat. And there the car goes off, and we're chasing it. And we're going through these hillsides. Man, they're driving fast, so I'm getting on them. I'm on their tail, and I'm just going. He hits a corner, bang, I hit that corner, right? We're going, all of a sudden, we hit a corner, and this guy starts slamming on the brakes. Why? Because there's all kinds of people there in the street. Well, I slam on the brakes. And man, you want to talk about adrenaline surging through you and fear surging through you? Because all I can do is either go off the side of this hill or pile into the back of them or something. So I hit the brakes and I start cranking the wheel. And these guys who are really great stuntmen have adjusted the braking so that you can slide and all that kind of stuff. Nobody told me this. I'm just thinking it's like a regular car. Fortunately, the car literally that we're in does a 180, and the car is going backwards now, and I hit a parked car that's sitting there, right? So all I got was like a little bruise, and my co-star didn't get hurt at all. The car we're in, that's not drivable anymore, because we've just taken the back of it and just pushed it like so, right? The car I hit, true story, guy comes out of this apartment building down there. He had just gotten his car out of the shop from being repaired from a crash. And I have just taken the front end of it and helped that motor get into the front seat. But I'm telling you, a stuntman should have been doing that. I should not have gotten in that wheel and done all that stuff. They let them do the big chase, and you just get in there for the close-up, man. I mean, come on, you know? Fortunately, nobody got killed, either of us or somebody on the street, you know? But I have never had that kind of fear in me when that braking system suddenly was not doing what you expected it to do, which was stop the car, you know? So anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, just crazy stuff.
That's good advice, and it's something to
Yeah,
hear,
yeah, and you learn,
Yeah,
you know, you learn
absolutely.
over a period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, stunt people, I'll tell you, man, thank them. Every time I hear some actor says, I do all my stunts, yeah. That was you hanging on the side of the plane that was actually taken off of a runway? Yeah, buddy, you're on a sound stage, there's more green screen than the law should allow. You know what I mean? And fans blowing you and all that bullshit. You're talking about, I do all my own stunts. Really? Yeah, sure. I just love it, you know. I love it, yeah. I mean, of course, if you're in a boxing ring, let's face it, you're the guy out there with nothing on but shorts, so you're gonna be doing that.
You are doing it, yeah.
You're doing that, but I mean, come on, this crazy car stuff and falling off buildings and walking on the ledge of a building? Not I, said the duck. No way.
Jumping on the bottom of a helicopter?
But that was just 2 skids. It looked real, right?
okay.
The 2 skids, see, that's what I mean. I was smart enough to do that, but I did knock the front teeth out completely and had to rush off to it and get all the restoration done so that I could work the next day. I hit those skids and my tooth went crank right on the front of it. You know, it just broke them all off, yeah. But yeah, that's what happens to actors because we don't know what the hell we're doing, you know, yeah.
So did you, in terms of your relationship with Sylvester Stallone, was it an immediate connection?
Yeah, how many times did he hit me? That was a connection, yeah. Yeah, it was. You know, there are so many positive things I could say about him, but I won't. No. Were it not for that script, were it not for that role, were it not for this actually wonderful piece of writing, were it not for John Avildsen, were it not for all of the people involved in that, you know, it was just kind of kismet. But it started with the script. Everything starts with the work, with the page, you know. And writers, let's give a shout out to writers. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, because without that, we're kind of hard put to do what we do. You know, I mean, you may be a really great improvisational person, but if you're telling a story, that's a craft too. And the better those people are, the better we look when we can really take their story and somehow transform it into, you know, something that's living. At the same time, we might all pause and remember that it is collaborative. So every time, you know, some writer, and I don't say that in some dismissive way, but every time a writer, you know, writes something and is so precious about it that he feels like, you know, he is the second coming or she is the second coming, then without actors, how does it come to life? It's not a novel. If it's a novel, then you read it and you imagine yourself in it. But there's some people who are going to get in front of a camera and bring this thing to life. And then we've got a director that we work with who's trying to help us give the best performance. Hopefully, he or she is, because they don't always do that. We can definitely talk about that, man, you know. Just because you can say action and cut doesn't mean you really know what the hell you're doing. Any more than just you can stand in front of a camera and say some lines doesn't mean you know what the hell you're doing. So again, with all these people who are better and better at their craft, us being one of them in terms of developing that craft, that's how we get this great work. And Sly, to his credit, you know, was unbelievably collaborative in this thing. He just wanted a great movie. He did what he did, and he allowed me, you know, which is a whole nother part of what we do. We deal with egos all the time. We deal with our ego, and we deal with the ego of the person on the other side of the scene, or the people in the scene with us. Man, when we leave that stuff at home, the process is so much more fun. You know, when we all leave it at home, when you don't work with people, when you work with people who somehow, and I've worked with some of those people, who somehow try to create subterfuge, try to undermine your performance, and do all kinds of little stuff because of their insecurities, it only diminishes what we're all doing, because the thing is supposed to be about the thing, not about you. It's not supposed to be about me, it's about the thing we're creating, And with Sly, certainly there in the beginning, we were all just young and eager and unknown for the most part. And the only known quantity in the whole deal, really, in front of the camera, was the great Burgess Meredith, who was, I got to tell you, most of you will not get a chance to work with as generous, as sweet a human being, as talented a human being as Burgess. I mean, I spent a lot of time with him after that movie at one social event or another he'd have at his house, and then I worked with him later when I was doing In the Heat of the Night, because he and Carol O'Connor were like that, and that's where I met Carol originally, at Buzzy's house. Rod Steiger, Carol O'Connor, Larry Hagman, all those people kind of hang out there, And then I got to work with all those people. I didn't ever work with Rod, but I got to do a reading of one of Carol's screenplays with Rod Steiger. But Larry Hagman directed, shows, and In the Heat of the Night. Anyway, Sly was, he was open and collaborative, and we were very fortunate that we had a group of people who were really, really eager to do great work and make this little movie,
Your presence in that movie is so big, and you brought us all in there with you, and we get to the fourth, we're with you 1, 2, 3. We watch this beautiful friendship develop, and 3 I feel like is a little bit of a love story between Rocky and Apollo.
You liked us running on the beach in the shorts,
I sure
right?
did.
Yeah.
I sure
There are a number
did.
of people who have remarked about the homoerotica of that.
Listen.
I don't necessarily agree with that take, but I did like watching him run on the beach.
Right?
I did.
Yes.
like hugging him in the surf and jumping around.
Was it cold? Was the water cold?
When you're in love, nothing's cold.
That's right.
There is nothing cold.
That's what I like to hear.
No, we're in Santa Monica.
Ah, beautiful.
So come on, how cold can it be,
Yeah.
No, it was, it's one of, how many times do you get a chance as an actor to have an experience, not only in a movie that is very successful, no matter where I go in the world, people have seen that movie. Absolutely. And they know of Apollo Creed. Absolutely. And I happen to be Apollo Creed, whether you like it or not. What's that line? I'm Apollo Creed and you're not. Anyway, so when we did that, the collaborative effort was through all of them. Yeah. Of course, the stakes get bigger when the thing starts making all this money, and then Sylvester Stallone becomes a superstar. I mean, things do change. Absolutely. That's the difference between the actor and the star. Things change, the movie star. But right down to the end, what still happened was the actor was allowed, Carl Weathers was allowed to do what Apollo Creed does. And Apollo Creed would not play second to anybody. That's right. He just wouldn't. So as you talk about the presence, the energy, a note on that. When I go to work, it doesn't matter, once I've decided I want to do this, it doesn't matter the scope of the piece. I will bring the same kind of presence to Mark Jefferies in Chicago Justice as I did to Apollo Creed. Because, again, what is this story about? As far as I see it, it's about Mark Jefferies and his world, what goes on in his world. And anytime you see him on screen, this story is about his life and how he walks through the world in his life. And so it's not accounting for the other actor. It's just, and I'm working at this moment with 2 actors directing this play. And I remember this great quote from, Robert, you here? I'm here. What's the name of the movie? Yeah. You're no help. The one we talked about with Newman and that whole group? Sometimes a Great Notion. Robert Shanley, a wonderful actor who is in this play. And by the way, you all must come see it. I'm going to give a little plug right now, if I may. We're going to open July 1st at the Edgemont Theater in Santa Monica. And we're going to be on the smaller stage. But Robert Shanley and, Jesus, Robert, help me, I'm brain dead. What? Tana Frederick, who's actually producing the play as well, who's a wonderful actress. The 2 of them together, and that's Shanley with a D, and we're going to be in a Shanley piece, right? John Patrick Shanley, a great playwright, called Danny and the Deep Blue Sea. And they are going to be spectacular, because in rehearsals, they're doing a great job. But anyway, I digress. What was I talking about? Don't give an inch. So as an actor, you walk on the set, man, come with all your tools in the toolbox. You don't have to sidestep for anybody. And I'm not talking about ego, but I'm talking about as an artist. As an artist, bring all your tools. Be ready to play. Be ready to shine. Who are you not to shine? You are a child of God. And beyond that, or with that, you're an artist. So when you walk on the stage, man, bring your artistry. Ladies, bring your artistry. That means filling that screen. They'll adjust the size. They'll go in for the close-up, but you start learning the craft, and guess what? You will be able to assist them. You'll get the dance. And as back to Charles Conrad, who so many gems, even that blind pig can find an acorn. I found an acorn every time I would listen to this guy. He used to talk about making love to the camera. And by doing that, you are actually giving all you can to the audience. Because even if I'm talking to you, and I throw that energy out and throw that attention out and take it, not being so self-conscious. Of course I'm conscious because I'm not dead, but being self-conscious and really just throwing it out, in the close-ups, man, the camera will pick it up. And that's how you fill the screen. You fill the screen by being so active, like that cat, watching those fish. While everybody's moving around you, your stillness becomes the thing that people watch. Because it's, wow, that's a lot of energy just balled up in that body, And it's active, not passive. Because it's inside you and it's happening and you're alive to everything going on around you. And so they want you to do a pickup because you bumbled the line, do a pickup. Just go right back though. Go right back. Don't let yourself drift, Energy, and attention, So Sly and that whole group, it's one of those remarkable experiences to go through that. Have those movies be as successful as they are, to go any place in the world and have people recognize you as a result of that. And fortunately, some other movies too, but man, those don't come around that often.
No.
They don't.
No. Absolutely not. They're legendary.
Yeah.
Classics.
I mean, just those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Those opportunities, because, geez, people have so many choices. Movies, television, books, you name it, video games, on and on and on. So, have we gone on too long? I got that look. I saw you with that thing.
Well, what? I hate this because I want to keep going, but
Can we? Is there something that's stopping us? People want to go to sleep. Are you telling me? Am I that boring? I'm that boring? Anyway, it's up to you.
Okay. No, I mean, I can.
No, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
good.
Let's. Okay. Good.
I go home and go to sleep and get up tomorrow morning and we rehearse our play. So I'm good.
Okay. Great. Well, I want to know how did you find out about Apollo's?
I'm sorry if I may.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're going on here and maybe people had some place to go or wanted to. I would not be insulted if you got up and walked out or if you got to go use the restroom or anything else. You know? I mean, seriously. Yeah, see? I mean, yeah. Because I would be the same way, man. I'd be sitting there and I'd be floating. My eyeballs would be floating after this guy's gone on yakking all this time, you know? So anyway.
We love it. We love it. We love it. The time is flying.
Okay.
So I feel.
Okay.
How did you find, for Rocky IV, who told you about what was going to happen to your character?
I read the script.
Someone just handed you a script not telling you anything?
No, actually Slide told me.
He did.
He told me, but he didn't tell me.
Okay.
He kind of like hinted at it, you know? And, you know, I was kind of between a rock and a hard place, honestly, because had I been courageous enough, I might have made a lot more money. Because I'd have said, you know, I'd have held out. I'd have done something there where they would have paid me a lot more. But of course, I wanted to be a part of it also, you know? And, you know, honestly, I should say I have no regrets at all in that experience because, and I don't have a lot of regrets, period, to be honest with you, about anything. There are things I probably would do differently, but then I'd be someplace else right now because, you know, that's the way the world works, you know? If you move left instead of right, well, 10 years later, guess what? You're not going to be in the place you would have been. So, so I read the script, and man, okay, I kind of knew Apollo was dying, but all right, you know. Yeah. And then when we did it, I mean, look, for my money, my favorites would be 1 and 4.
Okay.
Because 4 is so bombastic.
For sure.
It is so crazy to go to Las Vegas, shoot on a stage that has all these dancers and people up on high rises and I mean, jeez, my God, stuff flying. And then the thing coming down, the guy coming up, James Brown, I mean, come on. How could you, as a kid growing up in America, ever not want to be on the same stage with James Brown? I mean, really? You can't get any more classic. You cannot get any more classic. I don't care. That'd be like, in my opinion, that'd be like you having a chance to be on the stage with the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, James Brown,
yes.
When you really start looking at who James Brown really was and what he did in terms of music worldwide, man, if you know anything about music, this guy, legendary legend. I mean, so to be on the same stage with him, with Mr. Brown, you know, and he was Mr. Brown all the time. And the musicians who worked with him called him Mr. Brown, and everybody else did. This man would say, I mean, basically it's, you're gonna respect who I am. I'm Mr. Brown. That's it. You know, and he had that voice, that raspy voice, you know. I loved him. It was great though. So 1 and 4, beginning and the end.
Yeah.
The Alpha and the Omega. Hey. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then how did you get from, well, one more question. How did you mourn the loss of Apollo in your life? Or did you not? Was that, you know, did you just walk
Not
away?
really. I didn't really. You know, when something feels complete, life is just an adventure. So what's the next adventure? I mean, really, you know, every movie you do, guess what? There's an end to it. Yeah. You don't have to physically die on screen, but it's over, and everybody had a great time, and it was kind of like the family for a minute, and we did all right, and some people will continue relationships, others won't, but it's over, it's over. Next.
Predator.
Yeah, Predator. or as I heard it called, the Predator. The Predator, truly, somebody said that. Yeah, Predator came about as a result of, I'm not sure of before me, but I think they were interested in someone else, and somehow that didn't work out, whether or not the casting wasn't right. Knowing what I know today, looking in retrospect, that casting was definitely wrong, because it would have been a completely different movie. And I think what made sense was they needed someone physically who could hold his own with Arnold, but also, one of those great things, again, about, rejection. We're going to have those times as actors, as artists, where we're going to be rejected. Guess what? It may be one of the best things that ever happened to you. Because if you wind up doing something that really is the antithesis of who you are, or you can't really hit it out of the park with, and there's something about it that just doesn't work, or the movie fails, or whatever the deal is, how helpful is that really? I mean, yes, working is important, all of that. Even failures can be advantageous. But really being in the wrong role for you, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, a good thing. So the actor that I remember hearing about was just really not the right guy for that role. We got down there, we went down to Mexico. Oh, so I read the script, I was given the script, and I wasn't that interested at first. And the reason I wasn't interested was the role just didn't have anything to it that are things I look for in a role, that I can inhabit in a way that are going to somehow give me some presence, as you mentioned, on screen. Because if 100 other actors could do it, then I'm not the guy they want. I mean, really. And that's kind of the way I look at every one of those things. If there are just a few guys that I can imagine doing that, I'm one of those few guys, then I'm cool. But if any actor you could throw out there could do that, then why am I doing it? Because it's not going to mean anything to me. That's just the way I do it. Other people may do it differently. But I got the script, I read it. It was an interesting script, but the role was nothing. And I was convinced by my then manager that I should meet with the producer, who was Joel Silver. And Joel obviously had had some success. And at the time, Joel Silver is a very big name now, but he wasn't that big then, because he started really as kind of an assistant to Larry Gordon, who ran a studio at one time, right? Ran Fox at one time. And Larry was still producing, as was Joel at that time. And so Larry was involved in Predator, and Joel was the producer of note, and there were other people involved. But I was asked, hey, don't just turn it down summarily, just go and meet Joel. So I went and met him, and we had a discussion, and basically I said, why me? At that time, because I was still, forming, I guess you could call it. I would ask that question, why me? Because I really wanted to be wanted, not just, okay, I'm your 15th choice, And he told me why. And Joel, a lot of enthusiasm with everything. I mean, reminds you of what you think the old time studio bosses would have been, or the producers would have been, larger than life, crazy kind of energy, right? So he said basically to me, let me put you with the writers. And, I told him about what wasn't there in the role, and it just seemed to not have any arc, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And he put me with the writers, Jim and John Thomas, who did a spectacular job with that screenplay. And we sat down one afternoon, and I gave them my thoughts, and they took some notes. And it wasn't so much that the role increased that much more, but they added in some of the speeches who this guy really was, not just who Arnold said he was, got you pushing pencils, CIA, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I wound up talking to these guys, and they really sort of crafted this thing in a way that made this guy a lot more. And then I was able to inhabit him in a way that gave me some place to come from, some place to be, and some place to go with this guy, with Dylan. And even came up with the name, gave him the name Dylan.
You did?
Yeah, because we didn't have a name for the guy at the time. He was just CIA agent,
Okay.
And I've always loved, great titles and great names for characters, because they're memorable then,
Absolutely.
Anyway, so we went down eventually we made the deal, and we went down to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, for 2 weeks, I think, before we started shooting. And our great sort of advisor, Gary Goldman, who was a guy who, been in military and missions and all kinds of stuff, you know. And Gary, to this day, is still a friend. I consider him a friend. Sort of put us through our paces and, you know, taught us bumble heads how to actually hold a gun properly and, you know, I mean, military stuff, you know.
He was the training that you had.
Yeah, and put us through that. And of course, you're with 8 knuckleheads out there running through the jungle, doing anything but listening to Gary and, you know, grab-assing and doing what guys do, you know. But we somehow made it all work. And then we had really, in my opinion, one of the best directors when you talk about a camera. You know, there are directors who are really great acting directors. There are great directors who know where to put a camera and how to utilize lenses and all that sort of stuff. And then there's some who can do both, you know. But McTiernan happens to be a guy who really knows how to deal with a camera and switch lenses, and I mean, just brilliant. And then we had, you know, wonderful DP, and one of the things that I loved about that movie, and still to this day, was we had 3 different nationalities working on that crew. We had Mexicans, we had Americans, and we had Australians, and they all were integral to making that movie get made. You know, really important. And so it was a wonderful 2 months down there shooting a crazy movie in the jungle, and you know, the rest is history, as they said, and finally, you know, we didn't have a Predator, because a lot of people know that Jean-Claude Van Damme, this was kind of his beginning, and he was supposed to be the Predator, and didn't quite work out. A kickboxing Predator wasn't going to work too well. And so after we finished the movie, they actually had to find a guy to play the Predator, and because all that stuff you saw, obviously, was, you know, that guy in the trees didn't exist. That was acting 101. Okay, you guys look there, look at the red dot just off camera and blah, 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 you know. Look at the mat box, look up in the tree, and okay, right there, that branch, that's where he is now, you know. Wow. And so once we finished principal photography, they found, you know, this wonderful actor who was 7 feet tall, and sent he and Arnold down to Palenque, which is very near the Guatemalan border, very dangerous kind of territory, and that final stuff was shot there with the two of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And great stuntmen, by the way.
Right.
Again, great stuntmen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, the movie, again, you know, things I've done, it's one of my favorites.
How did you prepare for that final, you know, your final moments on screen?
That's a good question. You know, after a while, there ain't a hell of a lot of preparation, because it's like muscle memory. You know, camera starts rolling, go right there. There's nothing. What are you talking about? You know, it's that great line from Olivier to Hoffman. Try acting, dear boy. That's what you do for a living. Okay. Yeah. That's it, man. Camera's rolling, action, bang. Do it. Just do it.
Action Jackson.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I still today, you know, Action Jackson's one I'd like to have back. I'd really, you know, I'd like to be able to do that over, because we could have had much better movie. Long story short, we were shooting Predator. Joel liked blaxploitation movies, and we started talking about that, talking about different movies, and of course, because I'd done AIP movies, right? But he loved all those movies, and he's just a movie buff. And we started talking about different stuff, and in fact, before I'ma Get You Sucker came out, years before, Joel was talking about it when we were making Predator, because that's how much he loved that kind of stuff. So we started talking. I said, you know, yeah, I should write a little. He said, yeah, let's write something. We'll get together and see if we get it made. So you got to say to me. And in the, you know, between times I'm shooting, I'm trying to write a story, and I wrote this story, and it's on a few sheets of paper, and again, looking for a title. Right? I came up with this name for this guy, Jericho, and I didn't have a real like last name or anything, and I didn't have a title. And one day I was talking to one of the electricians, the Aussie electricians, and he was talking about women in his life. And he'd managed to connect with this particular woman that he was very fond of. And he was telling me the story. He said, I was in like action, Jackson. There's my title. So it became Jericho Action Jackson.
That's a good story.
And, I handed the story to Joel, and Joel eventually went off and found a writer, Rob Renault, who hung out with Shane Black, who was in Predator, who is now just finished probably production on a new Predator. Shane, Lethal Weapon and Last Boy Scout and so many wonderful movies he wrote. Wonderful writer. Got me interested in like John D. McDonald, his novels, potboiler kind of stuff. And so I hand the stuff to him, and all those guys, Shane and these guys, this group of writers, hung out at this place called The Pad. Young guys, of course, come up with stuff like that. And one of the writers, I guess, that Joe probably could give 15 cents to, and he wrote this thing called Action Jackson. Took basically the story I had and twisted it and turned it, and bang. We now are trying to get the movie made, and I was under contract at Lorimar at the time, and Bernie Brillstein ran Lorimar, who, man, is one of those people that I got involved with, who to this day, you meet those kind of people. I mean, those real, like, incredible human beings, characters in this business, comes from, God, the days of the Borscht Belt when his folks were involved with that, and New Yorker, and Bernie took a liking to me. Kyle, he would always call me Kyle, and Joel's going around and everybody's turning the idea down, and Bernie said, yeah, I'll greenlight it. And 11 months after I come up with this idea, we're making the movie. 11 months. I mean, script and everything. Well, script needed a rewrite badly, but green light, man, at that time,
No.
I better go, because we may never get this chance again. And Bernie, it was the second movie that Lorimar made, feature. The other was Dangerous Liaison, and ours was the second, and all that good Lorimar video money, because that's what Adelson really made his money on, the video business, when those things were still alive. And they greenlit the movie, and we made the movie, and the movie made money. And then it, was sent off where all movies go eventually, to television land. And so you see it out there every once in a while.
Yeah.
People liked it, though. People liked it. There's a huge,
it did well.
huge fan base. Yeah, it did. It did well. Germany, I had so many fans from Germany over Action Jackson, which is crazy,
Yeah. It's an amazing, that action scene in the end is out of sight.
Which one are we talking about? With the car and the
Car
jumping?
inside the house.
Well,
and
here's the crazy thing. Oh, that one, me driving the car up the house, which of course, yeah, I did that, but we're on the stage. That looked real, but come on. But no, the one thing where I'm out on the street and I jump over the car.
Jumping in the car, yeah.
That's all stunt.
Stunts, yeah.
That's all stunt.
That'd be
Oh yeah,
crazy.
there was Bob Miner was in the car. He played the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think it was Alan Olney. Was it Alan Olney? No, it wasn't Alan Olney. It was, who was a great stuntman. It was, oh man, I'm blanking on the name. But it was another stuntman that I've worked with a few times who actually did the jump over the car. They used like a power ramp, because he jumped on it and bang, it shoots you up into the air. Because, man, too many times in rehearsals, you see the guy's foot hit the top of the car, and when you're already tumbling, you lose your place in the world and kill yourself, So he took a couple of bruises before they got it right. And then eventually, when the car goes up, it wasn't supposed to do what it did. It literally went in the air through an intersection and on top of a building across the street. It was supposed to go through the wall, but it literally went over the top. And the stuntman inside that car, we were all really concerned. Because, man, when you're flying and the car comes down. And fortunately, he got out of it okay. He got, banged up a little bit, but he got out of it okay. Yeah. That's Action Jackson for you.
That's Action Jackson, and that is literally like, we still have so much more to talk about, but unfortunately, our time is up.
'cause there's a lot of stuff.
There could be a part two. you know?
If you say so. If you say so. Hey, I first of all, I want to thank you, right, Carolyn, for this time, but also SAG-AFTRA, the foundation, and for actors in particular, it's really necessary because we don't always have a paycheck coming in, and sometimes it gets kind of lean, and to have a group there that is willing to help on rough times, on hard times, when you're really trying your damnedest, to subsidize your life and take care of things, and certainly people get ill, that's just a part of life. So to have the foundation there is really, a fantastic thing, and my intention in coming here was to support that, and also to, when I was younger, and I still learn a lot all the time, but you don't get a chance. I was real fortunate. One thing I didn't say, I'm just going to be brief with this, but when I first started in Los Angeles, you didn't have all these lots that you couldn't walk onto. You didn't have these guards there who would stop you and send you back. I used to walk onto Universal and go on to sound stages. I remember watching George C. Scott stand on a ladder so long, working on a little clock on the Hindenburg, that I left. It took so long for that one little thing to be done, right? And so many other actors, really well-known actors, who I got a chance to meet, some of them later, but we don't have that anymore. So, how do you learn now? You learn through, now fortunately we've got CDs out there where actors talk about the craft, or you've got writers talking about the craft, or DPs talking about the craft, or directors talking about the craft. But sometimes you don't hear to get personal stories over a period of time that people tell. So my hope is that somehow you were benefited from this, and that, as someone told me a long time ago, it'll help you on your merry way and help you achieve the things you want to achieve, not only as an artist, but also somehow in life, So thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.